The die is cast, and the unfolding drama surrounding the Duke of Sussex's legal victory against News Group newspapers and the threat that it poses to the editorial elite of Britain's most infamous tabloid empire is not going to go away. Prince Harry's settlement is not merely a conclusion, but actually a spark that exposes the dark underbelly of tabloid journalism and the feudal hierarchy of Rupert Murdoch's media empire. NGN's apology to Harry for serious intrusions between 1996 and 2011 was an admission decades in the making, an admission of guilt, and they acknowledged that criminal activities went on, though they hastened to blame rogue private investigators rather than real journalists or real editors. But this well-worn tactic of scapegoating contractors is a tired dodge, intended to insulate senior figures like Rebecca Brooks, the Murdoch loyalist who continues to lead News UK with the apparent invincibility of a monarch's favourite or a monarch's brother. Brooks, the editor of The Sun during the alleged misconduct, escaped culpability once before during the phone hacking trial of 2014, yet this settlement drags her back into the fray. And Prince Harry's lawyer, David Sherburn, described her leadership as tantamount to presiding over a criminal enterprise. And while Brooks clings to her role under Murdoch's aegis, questions abound. Can she survive a post-Murdoch era where Murdoch's successors may prioritise cutting losses over indulging her tenure? News Group newspapers' tactics to evade accountability have cost the company over £1 billion in settlements. These payouts represent a staggering reckoning for an industry once predicated on a no-holds-barred approach to intrusion. For journalists and staff at The Sun, the fallout must be bitter. Newsroom insiders lament frozen wages, while millions are drained into settling lawsuits. But the real losers are not just... They weren't just celebrities and royalty. They were ordinary people, family members, friends, acquaintances swept into the vortex of tabloid voyeurism. They became victims of this machinery of malice. The psychological damage was real. Paranoia, broken relationships, a sense of being hunted. The Millie Dowler case, where News of the World hacked a murdered schoolgirl's voicemail, remains the grimmest illustration of these predatory practices. For victims like Prince Harry, all this must be bittersweet. While financial compensation and public apologies are victories, the absence of a full trial denies broader accountability, and senior executives remain shielded by corporate structures and legal manoeuvres. Hugh Grant, the long-time campaigner for media reform, summed it up. NGN gamed the system by settling cases to avoid public airing of evidence. And the refusal to confront the wrongdoing that is within the system perpetuates a culture of impunity. In effect, News Group newspapers and the power of News Group newspapers have leveraged the problems in our legal system to ensure that this issue isn't exposed, that it's settled out of court. And while Sir Brian Levison's inquiry attempted reform, it fell short of implementing the robust regulatory frameworks required to dismantle this entrenched rot. And the settlement casts a long shadow over the Murdoch empire, with Rupert Murdoch himself at 93 and his succession plan in turmoil. The fate of News UK hangs in a precarious balance. Insiders predict that Murdoch's death will trigger a corporate fire sale, with NGN's titles becoming liabilities rather than assets. And without Murdoch's unwavering support, Brooks and her cohort may find themselves in positions that are vulnerable. Moreover, the case reinvigorates calls for Leveson too, an expanded inquiry to expose the depths of media malpractice, and Prince Harry and Lord Watson's push for police investigations underscores a growing demand for criminal accountability, not just corporate mea culpas. The scandal is more than the sum of its legal settlements. It exposes an ethical void within Fleet Street and raises urgent questions about the unchecked power of media barons. At a time when public trust in journalism is fragile, the industry's reputation continues to bleed from self-inflicted wounds. As Prince Harry has stated, he is the last person who can push for accountability. His victory is a crack in the dam, but the full flood of justice remains obstructed by wealth, by influence, and the inertia of entrenched systems. The saga isn't just a reckoning for newsgroup newspapers, but a cautionary tale for all institutions that thrive on filth, on denial, on power, on control and evasion. No fortress of impunity is impervious forever. The day of judgment is approaching.